The evening had settled softly over the village, the sky a deep indigo canvas dotted with stars that blinked like distant lanterns. I sat on a weathered log near the hearth of a modest gathering, my lute resting gently against my thigh. The cool air was fragrant with the scent of night flowers, their pale petals swaying in a light breeze that whispered through the trees. It was a far cry from the grand halls and tense courts where the forgotten tune had once held sway, a place where music bent wills and twisted fates. Here, among simple folk with weathered hands and hopeful eyes, music was something pure and unburdened, a gift, not a weapon. I closed my eyes and let my fingers find the strings, coaxing a melody gentle and clear. The notes floated upwards, soft as a lullaby, weaving through the warm glow of firelight. It was a tune born not of ambition or power, but of longing and peace, the quiet song I had composed in the stillness after sacrifice. Around me, faces turned, their features etched with lines of hardship but softened by the music's embrace. Children nestled against their mothers, elders nodded in time with the rhythm, and strangers became companions through a shared breath of melody. It was as if the song had unlocked a door within their hearts, revealing a sanctuary untouched by the shadows of the past. Leora stood a few paces away, her usual vigilance softened by the moment. The fierce warrior who had guarded me through storms of betrayal and despair now allowed herself a fragile smile. I saw the glimmer of tears in her keen green eyes, tears, not of sorrow, but of relief and hope rekindled. Beside the fire, Melis watched silently, her silver hair catching the firelight like threads of starlight. She seemed almost a part of the night itself, an ethereal guardian whose presence lent the gathering a sacred air. Her quiet smile told me this was more than a simple performance. It was an offering, a healing balm for wounds both seen and hidden. As the melody wove through the night, I felt a lightness within me, a release from the heavy chains of the forgotten tune's curse. This music did not drain my breath or twist my fate. Instead, it breathed life into the stillness, mending the fractures left by ambition and loss. The villagers' quiet applause was like the gentle rustle of leaves, humble but heartfelt. I met their eyes and found in them a reflection of my own journey, not the hunger for dominion, but the yearning for connection, for understanding. When the last note faded into the night, a serene silence settled over us, a shared acknowledgement of the magic that lived in the simplest moments. I realized then that music's true power lay not in control, but in its ability to bind us together, to heal and to hope. Leora approached, her voice low but steady. "This is the magic worth fighting for," she said, her gaze steady and warm. I nodded, a smile touching my lips for the first time in what felt like an age. A song not of dominion, but of peace. And as the stars wheeled overhead, I began to understand that the quiet song was not the end of my journey, but a new beginning, a melody of redemption, whispered softly into the world, promising that even in silence, music lives on. But even as the night embraced us, a lingering question remained in my heart. Could this gentle magic withstand the shadows yet to come? The tune of fate was far from over, and the dance between melody and destiny continued, silent yet potent. With that thought, I tuned my lute once more, ready to face whatever the next refrain might bring, not with the hunger for power, but with the quiet strength of a song born from hope. The morning sun spilled golden light across the valley, painting the land in hues of amber and green as a gentle breeze whispered through the fluttering banners above the gathering crowd. One stood atop the grassy hill, my gaze sweeping over the assembly below, scholars in flowing robes, musicians tuning their instruments, and students wide-eyed with eager anticipation. The air was thick with an energy I had not felt since the days when the forgotten tune first awakened its restless power within me. But this was different. This was a moment not of dread or desperation, but of hope and rebirth. Before them, a towering mural stretched across a great stone wall, its colors vibrant and alive despite the centuries that had passed since those vanished souls had walked this earth. The story it told was one of creation and ruin, of a civilization whose mastery of music and magic had reached dizzying heights and whose hubris had brought about their downfall. The ancient harmonies, once lost to time and silence, now hummed faintly in the air, carried by the voices of the gathered minstrels who recited the tale in song. I felt a presence beside me and turned to see Melis, her silver hair catching the morning light like threads of starlight woven into silk. Her eyes shimmered with a calm wisdom as she watched the scene unfold. "They listen," she said softly, "and they remember." Indeed, they were listening, not just to the story, but to the message beneath. It's the delicate balance between power and sacrifice, the fragility of language, and the sacred trust required to wield magic through music. For too long, kingdoms had chased dominion, twisting melodies into weapons and shackling souls with songs of control. Now, the legacy of the vanished civilization served as a cautionary refrain, urging a different path. As the day wore on, word of this gathering spread swiftly. By evening, messengers had reached distant courts, carrying with them the revelations unearthed from ancient ruins and the visions shared by Melis and myself. In the grand hall of Queen Isildur's palace, the air was thick with expectation as the monarch rose to address an assembly of rulers, magisters, and envoys. Her voice, serene yet resolute, filled the chamber. "We stand at a crossroads," she declared. "The history revealed to us is not merely a tale of loss, but a beacon guiding us toward harmony. We must teach our people to respect the fragile language that binds our magic and music, to pursue knowledge with humility and compassion. Only then can we ensure that the mistakes of the past do not echo endlessly through our future." Her words were met with a mixture of solemn nods and cautious hope. The weight of responsibility settled upon us all, yet beneath it lay the promise of renewal. In the days that followed, the transformation took root. I found myself walking alongside Leora through the bustling courtyards of the newly established academy, where young apprentices practiced their harmonies with reverence and joy. Laughter mingled with the gentle strumming of lutes and the soft hum of incantations, creating a tapestry of sound that symbolized a world learning to heal. "Look at them," Leora said, her eyes bright with something I had not seen for months' hope. "This is what we fought for." I nodded, feeling the heavy burdens of the past begin to lift, replaced by a cautious optimism. Yet, beneath the surface, I knew the journey was far from over. Old rivalries simmered, and ambition never fully sleeps. But for the first time, I believed that the lessons of the vanished civilization might guide us toward a future where music was a gift shared, not a weapon wielded. One evening, beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient tree that had weathered countless seasons, Melis and I shared a quiet moment. The starlight danced upon her silver hair as she spoke with a softness that belied her immense power. "The lost language is fragile," she said, "like a delicate melody that can be broken with a single false note. It is your burden and your blessing now, Eryndor. Guard it well, teach it wisely." I felt a peace settle deep within me, a quiet resolve to honor the legacy entrusted to my hands. The haunting melody that once promised dominion now whispered a gentler tune, one of balance, sacrifice, and hope. As I looked up at the night sky, the stars seemed to shimmer in harmony, a silent chorus affirming that even in silence, music endures. The world was being rewritten, note by note, and I was ready to write my own song within it. But even as the new dawn broke, a question lingered in my mind, unyielding and profound. How long could this fragile balance hold before the old echoes of ambition began to stir anew? The melody had changed, but its song was far from finished. The tavern was nearly empty, save for a few late-night wanderers nursing their drinks in the half-light. In a shadowed corner, Talon sat alone, his fingers tracing the rim of a chipped mug as if searching for answers in its worn surface. The candle flickered, casting long shadows that danced across the walls, reflecting the turmoil within his own heart. He had chased the forgotten tune with a hunger so fierce it had blinded him to the cost the friends lost. The betrayals, the near-fatal gambits. Each step toward power had pulled him further from who he once was, until the man staring back at him in the tavern mirror was a stranger, haunted and hollow. Memories of Eryndor's calm determination, Leora's unwavering loyalty, and Melis's cryptic guidance crowded his mind. They had walked a path so different, one tempered by sacrifice and wisdom, while he had rushed headlong into darkness, letting envy drive his every move. A sudden knock at the door startled him. He looked up to see a familiar figure step inside Eryndor. The bard's pale face was marked by exhaustion, but also a steady resolve that unsettled Talon behind him. Leora's keen green eyes scanned the room, ready for any sign of hostility. "I didn't expect to see you here," Talon said, voice rough but sincere. Eryndor stepped forward, his gaze never wavering. "Nor I you, but there is much to discuss, and little time." The two men moved to the music chamber within the castle, a place where the air thrummed with residual magic and echoes of past performances. Their instruments rested on stands nearby, silent witnesses to the tension filling the room. "I've come to admit my mistakes," Talon began, his voice low. "The tune's power consumed me, blinded me. I thought I could control it, bend it to my will like a blade in my hand. But all I did was cut myself and those around me." Eryndor regarded him quietly. "It is a hard lesson. The melody demands more than skill, it demands sacrifice and understanding." Leora, standing just beyond the doorway, kept a watchful eye, her posture rigid but her expression softening as she sensed an opening for peace. Talon's eyes flickered with vulnerability. "I want to change. Not to wield power, but to protect what little remains of the lost language and its magic. I offer you a truce, Eryndor. Let us face the coming storms together, rather than tear each other apart." The room held its breath in the fragile silence that followed. Then, slowly, Eryndor nodded, a faint smile touching his lips, a melody of hope rising amidst the discord. As they clasped hands, the haunting refrain of the forgotten tune seemed to soften, its deadly edge dulled by the promise of reconciliation. Yet beneath the surface, the weight of past wounds and fragile trust lingered, a reminder that redemption was only the first note in a new and uncertain song. Outside, the wind whispered through the castle's ancient stones, carrying with it both the ache of loss and the fragile hope of renewal. In this moment, the bard and his rival stood poised on the cusp of something neither had dared to envision: a future where power might serve not destruction, but harmony. But as the candle guttered low, casting their shadows long and intertwined, the question remained: could Talon's reckoning truly lead to redemption, or was this but another refrain in a tragic melody? The night deepened, and with it, the promise of change whispered through the halls. The night wrapped itself around me like a velvet cloak, soft and unyielding, as I sank beneath the ancient oak's sprawling branches. Twilight draped the sky in hues of lavender and gold, the horizon a fading canvas where day relinquished its hold to the encroaching darkness. The air was cool, carrying the faint rustle of leaves and the distant, mournful song of night birds awakening to their nocturnal symphony. In my hands, the lute felt lighter than it had in moons, and its strings whispered a new melody, gentle, tentative, and barely more than a breath. I played slowly, deliberately, each note a fragile thread weaving through the silence. The melody was unlike any I had dared before, not a song to command or control, but a quiet hymn to what had been lost and what might still be found. It was a reflection, a question, a prayer. The forgotten tune, with all its intoxicating power and ruinous toll, had taught me that music's true magic lived as much in the spaces between notes as in the sound itself. As the last note faded into the evening, I closed my eyes and let the silence settle like a bomb. My mind drifted, retracing the long and winding path that had brought me here from the first trembling discovery of that ancient melody to the crushing weight of its curse and the bitter taste of betrayal and loss. I was a bard still, but not the same one who had once sought dominion through song. Now, I was something quieter, something humbler, keeper of fragile truths and delicate balances. The crackling of a campfire stirred me from my reverie, and I turned to see Leora approaching, her tall form silhouetted against the flickering flames. Her braided auburn hair caught the firelight, casting a warm glow around her keen green eyes. She settled beside me with a soft grunt, the weight of her presence both grounding and comforting. For all her strength and stern pragmatism, there was a gentleness beneath, a fierce loyalty that had never wavered even in my darkest hours. "That was beautiful," she said quietly, nodding toward my lute, "a song of healing, not harm. I'm glad you're finding your way back." I smiled faintly, the lines of weariness etched deep on my pale face, softening for a moment. "I'm learning that power isn't just about control. Sometimes it's about knowing when to be still." She studied me a moment longer, then chuckled softly. "And here I thought you'd never give up the chase for glory." "Glory tends to be a noisy thing," I murmured, "but peace is found in quiet spaces." Our shared laughter mingled with the crackle of the fire, weaving a fragile thread of warmth through the night. It was moments like these, simple, unadorned, that reminded me of what had always mattered beneath the tumult: friendship, trust, and the courage to face the shadows within and without. As the fire's glow dimmed, a sudden shimmer of starlight caught my eye, and Maylis emerged like a whisper from the dark. Her silver hair cascaded around her ethereal form, and her eyes sparkled with the quiet wisdom of ages. She spoke in riddles, her voice a soft melody that seemed to echo from some distant realm. "In the silence between your notes," she said, "lies the truth of the melody. Not in the power to command, but in the grace to release. The lost language you carry is not a chain, but a key." Her words hung in the air, a delicate mystery unfolding like petals in the moonlight. I felt the weight of her gaze, gentle yet penetrating, as if she saw every fragment of my soul laid bare. "I am ready," I whispered, "to learn what it means to hold the key without locking the world away." Maylis nodded, a serene smile touching her lips before she faded into the night, leaving only the soft rustle of leaves to mark her passing. Left alone once more, I lifted my eyes to the vast expanse of the night sky. Stars strewn like scattered jewels across the black velvet. Each twinkle seemed to pulse with a faint, ancient rhythm, a cosmic song that bound all things music and silence, power and sacrifice, hope and sorrow into a harmonized fate we all shared. I breathed deeply, feeling the steady beat of my heart, the fragile thread of life that remained. The forgotten tune no longer ruled me. Instead, I carried its echoes within, tempered by understanding and acceptance. The journey had been long, marked by loss and longing, but in this moment, beneath the watchful stars, I found a quiet peace. The bard's reflection was not one of regret, but of hope, a melody rewritten in softer tones, a song that might yet inspire those who listened to find their own harmony. And as the night deepened, I knew that my story was far from over. The silence held its own power, and the music of the future awaited my hand to guide it gently into the dawn. This was my refrain, the quiet song of a bard who had learned that sometimes the greatest magic was the courage to listen and the wisdom to let go. The first light of dawn spilled softly through the latticed windows of the modest hall where I stood, lute cradled gently in my hands. The morning air was cool, carrying with it the faint scent of blooming jasmine from the garden beyond. Around me sat a small gathering, faces eager and tentative, their eyes reflecting curiosity and the fragile hope that had begun to take root within our fractured world. I drew a steady breath, feeling the familiar weight of strings beneath my fingers. But this time, the melody I played was different. Gone was the haunting power that once bent kings to my will at a ruinous cost. Instead, the notes wove a gentle tapestry of sound, warm, inviting, and tender, a new song born from the fragments of the old, yet transformed by the lessons of sacrifice and redemption. Each chord resonated with the promise of balance, a magic that healed rather than commanded. As the music filled the room, I caught the soft smiles of those gathered, a healer's touch in a world long scarred by ambition and betrayal. The haunting desperation that had once gripped my soul was no longer a shackle, but a quiet refrain, reminding me of the cost that had brought us here and the duty I now embraced. Later, as the hall emptied and the sunlight grew stronger, Leora joined me in the garden. The morning dew clung to the leaves, and birdsong fluttered softly through the branches. Around us, figures from once hostile factions mingled cautiously, their voices low but friendly. It was a scene I had dared only dream of, enemies bound not by chains or threats, but by music that nurtured understanding and hope. Leora's keen green eyes met mine, steady and unwavering. "This is only the beginning, Eryndor," she said, her voice carrying the fierce protectiveness I had come to rely on, softened now by relief and cautious optimism. "But it's a start." I nodded, the weight of years lifted slightly by the simple truth of her words. That evening, beneath a sky scattered with stars, Melis appeared one last time. Her silver hair shimmered with an ethereal glow, and her eyes held the depth of ancient wisdom. "The song lives on," she whispered, her voice like a breeze through chimes. "Not in power or dominion, but in the memory and the hearts of those who carry it forward." Her departure was as gentle as a fading note, leaving me with a profound sense of closure and gratitude. The vanished civilization's legacy was no longer a curse, but a lesson etched into the silence between our melodies. In the quiet moments that followed, I found myself by the lake's edge at dawn, the water a mirror to the softening sky. The world was still, save for the distant call of a lone nightingale, its song pure and unburdened. I closed my eyes and let the silence fill me, embracing the melancholic hope that had grown from the ruins of my journey. The forgotten tune no longer dictated my fate. Instead, it whispered a new refrain, one of balance, sacrifice, and harmonized destiny, a melody that I would teach, protect, and carry with me as a guardian of memory and music's truest magic. Yet, even as peace settled like a gentle dusk, I knew the song was not entirely silent. Somewhere within me, its quiet echo would forever remind me of the path I walked, a path where power and ruin danced, where the cost of dominion was paid in notes of sorrow and hope entwined. And so, My story closes not with a final crescendo, but with a gentle, enduring refrain. A song of endings and beginnings, of loss and redemption, and of a world rewritten by the quiet magic of music. But even as the melody fades, the question lingers: how does one live with the memory of great sacrifice while nurturing hope for a peaceful future? The answer, I believe, lies not in the loudness of the song, but in the silence that follows, where true healing begins. As the sun rose higher, I lifted my lute once more, ready to teach, to guide, and to listen, for in every note, a new story waits to be told.